So, big warm welcome to you all for our spotlight with Jo Houlbrook from Houlbrook Physiotherapy. And I remember, oh gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago when Jo came to one of our events as a visitor, very pregnant. But had already set her vision for leaving the NHS and establishing her own practice. And lo and behold, post bump and pregnancy, she came back, and we can't get rid of her now, thankfully. Well, I shouldn't have said that really, but we don't want to get rid of you. And we know that Jo did amazing work for many of our members through particularly the last 18 months, but we'll come on to that shortly. So, Jo, welcome. To start with, tell us a bit more about your background then overall.
Right, okay. So I qualified in 2004 from St George's Hospital Medical School in London, which, going from sort of rural Clotton to Tooting was a bit of a culture shock at the time. But it was a bit crazy actually, because I'd put the medical school on as a bit of a joke on the UCAS form and didn't think I'd get in. But it was the only place I got an offer, and I got an unconditional. So it was, I kind of had to go. But it was amazing. I mean, training in London you're just at the forefront of everything. So it was a really good grounding. And then I left London and went to work in Edinburgh. Did 5 years up there where I did my juniors and sort of seniors, where I specialised in sort of medicine. So all inpatient, all acute. And then 2009, we decided to move home, and I moved to Arrow Park, which is a little district general. So obviously coming from two like massive teaching hospitals, it was a bit of a culture shock, but great department, like great team of physios, but clinically it was just like stepping back in time, and just became frustrating. And I think over that time, the NHS changed hugely. There was staffing pressures, but not much career progression. So as band 7, so the way it works, you've got juniors, senior 2s and senior 1s, and then your clinical specialists. And I'd moved down as a senior 2, and there was just no career progression. As senior 1s were leaving, the band 7s, they just weren't getting replaced. Those sort of roles just evaporated, which was frustrating from a career point of view because there was nowhere to progress. But also you were losing that experience within the team, which, it was just deeply frustrating. So in 2015, I left, which everyone was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I don't care what I do as long as it's not the NHS. But I left Arrow on the Friday, and on the Monday I was stood in A&E at Macclesfield because I locumed for a bit. And that was really good, because I think when you've not worked in many of the hospitals in the area, it gives you a really good insight as to how things work, across the county. And I mean, because all of my experience had been inpatient and acute, I did a lot of community work as a locum. So again, that was good. I mean, one of my frustrations for leaving the NHS was I worked in A&E a lot. So you're just assessing people and, either getting them home with care and community rehab or admitting them. And one thing we were seeing a lot was that people were just coming in and out, just this revolving door cycle, where they weren't getting rehab in the community because the waiting list was flipping huge. And I mean, it's even bigger now. It was just so disconnected. And I really felt that there was a role for private physio to fill that gap. And there is, undoubtedly there is. And even more so now post-pandemic, because just everything is so stretched. And I think one thing we're going to see over the coming months is just burnout of the NHS staff. Without a doubt, if it hasn't already happened. So people like me are there to kind of fill that gap and stop people from being readmitted. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Yeah, and I recall us talking at length about it, and I won't get too political. I can do.
Don't get me on
the notion that a health service wouldn't provide that immediate rehab, knowing the tail off that can happen if people don't access that immediately, is just blows my mind, really.
It's so short-sighted. I mean, to use an example, I've got a chap at the moment who's been discharged from ortho. He basically had a fall and broke his hip. a lot of my patients are this category. And he's been picked up by the rapid response team. So this is kind of like a wraparound team that provides care, rehab, physios, OTs, the whole lot. And they're meant to follow you in. So you get discharged from hospital into, I don't know, a rehab unit. Often they're beds in a nursing home. And then you go from there to home with the care and the input that you need. Now, this chappie prior to the fall was totally independent at home. He'd walk around his village and whatnot. Really high functioning, able to he's got like a pressure stocking that he was able to put on. But he's been assessed as being able to mobilise. So he's been discharged home, but without any care. And you're like, hang on a minute, this guy can't shower. He can't put his stock on. He's walking with a frame. So how's he going to get his breakfast from the counter to the table? And, for a rehab team who's meant to provide this, you're like, how has this not been picked up? Because now the family are having to step in, and that's obviously a pull for their work commitments and their family. But what you've basically got is you're setting somebody up to fail, from the outset. And given that I think his family said he had 10 minutes of rehab when he was in the hospital. I mean, that you should be having rehab every day. Yeah. Oh, it's just infuriating. And you think, well, these teams are here. Why is this not being sorted out? Why, obviously it's great for me. It provides me with an income and a business, but, it's very frustrating. And that's just one example. And what frustrates me is I see the people who can pay for therapy. What happens to the ones who can't? Sorry, I've gone on a rant.
No, you haven't. But I think, I think it's, even if we had this conversation 2 years ago, there was clearly a space and a need for you. And I think the interesting thing is when, people maybe imagine what a physio does, they maybe think, oh, they're only for young people, they're only for sporty people. And, what would I need one of those for if you're not either of those things? Really? I'm quite young, but I'm not that young. But I do use a physio because I know if there's something wrong with my body, I want to get it sorted quickly. And that's where people like yourself come in. So tell us a little bit. So you clearly picked up a lot when you were doing your community work. What led you to then specialise in the area that you now specialise in? And maybe explain what that area is.
Well, it's predominantly elderly care. So when I worked in acute, like I mentioned in Edinburgh about specialising in medicine. So medicine's all your stroke, or it was up there, it'd be different in every hospital, but it's stroke, like acute medical, where you'd get all your sort of alcoholics, diabetes, all that sort of stuff. So acute medicine tends to be like younger than the elderly, but sort of still in that, kind of those kind of problems. And then sort of geriatric, so a lot of elderly rehab, a lot of falls, that kind of thing. I don't know really why I've ended. I just love it. I just, they're endlessly fascinating. I love hearing about people's lives and just making a difference. And it's I don't know, I feel they're often overlooked. Obviously there's a lot of input for stroke and neuro. Respiratory is pretty well covered. I mean, I do love respiratory from a time in acute, and I do see respiratory patients, but that's so well covered by the NHS. It's few and far between that I see now. But, obviously there's a lot of elderly fallers, a lot of people with dementia who, if you've got someone with dementia who's in a nursing home and they hit a community NHS list, they're gone, because they're in a place of safety. So they fall down the priority list and then just off it altogether, which shouldn't happen, but it does. So again, there's a big gap for those people. And having dementia isn't a barrier to rehab. Yes, okay, it's a lot harder and people don't retain stuff, but that repetition and just continually doing it, it does stick. And obviously every time you're doing it, you're strengthening and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's just a really enjoyable area of work, and you do make a massive difference. And I try and work as holistically as possible. And I think having worked in big teaching hospitals and always been part of the MDT, so you've got dietitians, speech and language, OTs who are basically, like one half of the same coin in a way. It's given me that ability to not just see the person from a physio's set of eyes, but appreciate all the other things, like the chappie who can't get his socks on. That is really, it's an OT problem, but it's something that needs addressing. So yeah, so I think, yeah, just I've probably diverged and not answered the
No,
question.
not at all.
But yeah,
And I always recall that you were very much, yes, I can help people get better, but actually a lot of what you provide in terms of service is prevention. So talk to
yeah.
us about what you've done to do that, and particularly over the last 18 months as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the strength and balance groups that we do, that's out and out sort of preventative medicine. You know, obviously, if you can prevent someone from falling, the cost savings are massive, like huge. You know, you're running into thousands of pounds. So yeah, so the falls, we prior to lockdown, I ran a face-to-face sort of falls prevention class in Tatton Hall. And obviously when that all stopped, I wanted to offer something that would, you know, stop a massive decline in fitness, which inevitably happened. So I just offered it for free, but via Zoom, which wouldn't even have known about if it wasn't for you, Tracy. It was like pretty
You're
steep
welcome.
learning curve. But yeah, so I emailed all the local GPs and said, look, we're doing this for free, and it's just to keep people going. And also it had the added bonus of just keeping me sane, because I felt like I was losing the plot completely. So we did it twice a week. I think we had about 8 people in it throughout lockdown. Yeah, and obviously as we moved out of lockdown, I converted it to a paid group, and it's still running now online. So
Oh, brilliant.
yeah, it's great. I mean, all of them were local ladies, but one of them's moved to York now, so like out of the county. So yeah, but yeah,
But
we've
she's
not.
still joining.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
loves it.
brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, she had a fall. She'd stumbled down a step, and she feels that since doing the group, it's improved her walking, improved her confidence, and it's also, it gave that sort of social element, which I think was really important. You know, in the lockdown, it did people. Yeah, we all were kind of sort of losing it a bit for the lack of human contact. And I mean, some of those ladies literally weren't seeing people from, you know, 1 week to the next. So, you know, it was more than just a strength and balance. It became like a bit of a social as well, which was, yeah, just lovely.
Has your
Um,
Tatton Hall group reformed? Are you still running
well,
that face to face?
yeah, I'm in the throes. We had a bit in the middle of the 2 lockdowns where I set it up again. I think we did 1 block, so we did like 7 weeks, 6 weeks, that sort of thing. And then I think we went back into lockdown. So it all came to an end, and I've just never really got back to it. But I'm hoping towards the end of this month of starting it up again. Yeah, it's just been a bit of a headache, because obviously the sort of age range of the people who are coming are vulnerable. But it's time as well. You know what it's like when you don't have something in the diary, suddenly it gets filled with
Yeah.
something else, and now it's
Yeah.
trying to shimmy everything round. So yeah.
So looking forward then, obviously we're going to see potentially continued ongoing changes in terms of service provision. So how are you in the practice going to adapt to that? What are your future plans?
Well, I mean, I've taken on this new lad, Nathan, I've been sort of tentatively mentioning from time to time. So Nathan joined me as an assistant, really, but he comes with a whole host of other skills, because he's got a degree in sports rehabilitation. So it's growing that element of the business, and obviously letting people know that we're offering that service. But yeah, I guess it's just it's growing it and developing it. And yeah, I mean, I suppose one thing I've sort of tentatively thought about is starting to tender for like winter beds provision, because that's obviously something that the NHS would normally do. And yeah, I don't feel they'll be able to meet the need, but equally, me as an individual physio, I don't know that I can meet the need. And I suppose I need to look at whether I need to employ another physio and develop those services. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of one of those, you know, and you're like teetering on the brink of, do I do this? Do I not? You know, it is a responsibility. And yeah, sometimes you just got to, yeah, be brave, haven't you? Jump off the cliff and see how you land. But yeah, so yeah. But I think that's probably, I think in order to grow the business, I do need to employ more staff and yeah, take the plunge.
And with
I mean,
those different specialities as well, that gives you, I guess, a broader demographic to then target
yeah,
also.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nathan's sort of been seeing a much younger demographic, obviously, because they're the people who pick up sports injuries and,
Mhm.
require that service. So, yeah, I mean, if I could employ another sort of care of the elderly physio, then that would essentially free me up to do a bit more business planning, which
Mhm.
I probably need to do, which I never do. It's kind of in a, 10 o'clock at night when you're trying to get to sleep and your head's whirring around. It's
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
ideal, but
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's I'll probably look to get in more nursing homes because obviously they've got all the patients we should and need to be seeing. When I first sort of set the business up, I went round and all the homes, and you kind of need a letter from God to get in front of the managers. So I just sort of gave up, and I've got in a couple, and that's grand. But if I could get in more, that
Time
would
to
be
go again. Mhm.
yeah, definitely, yeah, and
So
just
for people that are maybe not as familiar with the care sector per se, what's your definition, or what should people be considering for you in terms of good connections, a nursing home versus a care facility versus, I know you can sometimes get these sort of over 55
yeah, like
blocks and
assisted living,
apartment.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah. So
mean,
what's your
any
sweet
of
spot?
any of them is, yeah, and I know that's really broad, but there's people who I can help in all of them. I mean, to give you an example, I've treated patients who are sort of very demented, and really in nursing care because of their needs. And I've treated people who are living in, like a retirement complex, and we're, aiming to get up Snowdon. So there's kind of, it's,
Okay.
really broad, the type of stuff that we can offer. But I think it's anyone who needs help reaching their goals, and no matter what they are, whether it's walking around their bedroom in a care home or whether it's going up Snowdon, we can help with that. And I think the thing is, those goals are always evolving with the patient, so it's always changing. I mean, one of the ladies I've seen she's in like a sort of retirement complex. When I first started seeing her, I was seeing her for chest physio, and she was incredibly breathless and all the rest of it. And now we are aiming. Her goal is to get to the top of Snowdon again.
Wow.
Now, whether that's getting the
Extraordinary.
train and doing the last wee bit, which it probably will be, but that's what we're sort of aiming for. So, yeah, I mean, I've been seeing her for, oh God, it's probably like 4 years now. So I think that's the thing. I was chatting with another physio the other day, and I said, "Oh, I'm seeing this lady for X amount of time, and I've been seeing her for however many months." And she said, "Oh, well, ethically, I couldn't do that. What are you doing? Have you improved her like joint mobility?" And I said, "Well, a little bit, but I've encouraged her to get an X-ray, which will get her into orthopedics, and that took time because she was very frightened." And on the face of it, in terms of the joint range, yeah, okay, I probably haven't achieved what ethically would be deemed right, but it's not just about that. It's about the person and about what their goals are, and helping them achieve them. It becomes a bit more wraparound
Yeah,
than just the joint mobility.
yeah. And it's,
So
as you say, it's that holistic view, isn't it? It's not just
yeah,
fix that
yeah,
problem and then adios. It's,
yeah, yeah,
well, what do you want? How do you want your body to be performing in the
yeah,
much longer term, and
yeah,
what support can you give to through exercises or mobility or treatments? Can you do to
yeah,
manage that?
definitely, definitely. So I think, yeah, when it comes to kind of sort of sector, it's really anyone kind of over the age of 70 you think needs a bit of help, or even just advice, because that's the other thing. People, if you've not had contact with services, you don't often know where to go or what you need or what equipment you need.
Sure.
And that's something that we can advise on and point you in the right direction to the right professionals, because obviously I've got a lot of links with other professions just through working in the NHS,
Hmm.
or working privately. So yeah.
And Joe, given there are people maybe who proactively or are in a position where they need to have a hip replacement, or not because of a
Mm,
fall, but because of other things, or have a knee replacement, or
yeah.
I don't know, are there any other joints that people have replaced?
Yeah,
Is there a service offer around that? in
Yeah,
terms of
definitely.
prepping for surgery and then
Yeah,
post-surgery? Because I guess
yeah,
that's certainly, I've got a couple of friends whose parents have gone through those sorts of surgeries, and it's like, well, there's your knee, adios. And again, that
yeah,
whole
yeah,
rehab is just, from an
yeah.
outsider looking in, sounds not as it should be, shall
Oh,
we say.
totally. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's got worse post COVID.
Hmm.
People are just being like punted out.
Yeah,
So yeah, without a doubt. I mean, anything you can do pre-op to build strength, and I know it. I mean, it is hard because obviously if the joint's
your
painful and you've
pain.
reduced,
Hmm.
yeah, and your fitness has gone because you've not been walking as much. But literally anything you can do to try and strengthen the muscles around that joint will give you a better outcome post surgery.
Hmm.
And then it's starting that rehab like literally day
Day
one.
one.
Yeah, you want to be, if it's doing exercises in bed or doing them in the chair or getting up and walk, it's anything you can do to strengthen up post op is going to hold you in good stead. And I think that's the thing. Again, it is dead short sighted, but this isn't being, really, really addressed, and money being poured into it to get that rehab in place. But I mean, I do think like the NHS services need a massive shake-up because there's physios on the ground in Chester in the countess at the ortho, but yet they're not rehabbing people. So who's overseeing that? Who is
Yeah.
accountable for that? Um, yeah, and
Okay.
yeah. Sorry,
So,
having a rant
so
about
no, it's fine. Care homes in particular, people in nursing homes, people who want to live independently at home, but
it. Mm,
whereby they maybe have had a small fall, as you say, and it's about getting them back to either a confidence level or a strength level. Obviously, with Nathan coming on, we've got more of that sporty side. Are there any other ways that the members can help you in terms of who are good connections for you?
Yeah, I mean, spreading the word definitely. I mean, particularly those people who have had a fall and are still at home, because those are the people who start losing confidence,
Hmm.
and then they start doing less and just become more at risk of falling again.
Yeah,
So then, I mean, yeah, again, that's a great referral for us. And a lot of these people, they don't know we exist. They're not on Facebook, they're not sort
yeah,
of trawling the web as some are, but a lot of people in that age range tend not to. So it's just letting people know that we're there and we can help. I mean, that's the face-to-face class is great for that. And obviously, if they're not local online and they can
the online one.
the online's brilliant. Yeah, it really does make a difference. And I think as well, it is that sense of sort of community and like belonging. You see other people who are having similar struggles and similar issues, and it just reinforces that actually it's pretty normal, but there is something you can do about it. So yeah, just spread the word far and wide.
Okay, very good. So, what question have I not asked that I should have asked, Joe?
Oh, I
That
don't.
will tell people a bit more about you.
Oh, yeah. Oh God, brain melt. I don't know. I suppose. Yeah, I suppose a bit more about me as a person, but yeah, I think most people probably know I'm a bit crazy.
Well, you have to be in this network. That goes without saying, my lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, but you've got a new friend. So you mentioned that, didn't you? You've got a
Who
new pup with yeah.
Yeah, now with the pup, I am hoping that I can train him up to be a therapy pet. That's my
Ah, interesting.
goal. Yeah, definitely. Now, whether it's training is not going great, it has to be. It's only day 5, but yeah, I've had
Oh,
a
well,
lot
there you go.
in the house. But I mean, like border collies are really smart, and certainly like animals in therapy, particularly with the dementia patients, it is just so rewarding. And that if I can get him trained up and then take him round the homes, for one, it puts my face in the home in a less sort of like, I'm here to do physio. It's something nice that I can give back. But yeah, so that's kind of the goal over the next sort of 3 years. Yeah, so that'd be good. And I think, I don't know, it would be nice to just give something back to those patients that have, supported our journey as the
Hmm.
company. Yeah, and he is really cute. So
I
totally
feel like
biased.
we need to see him now, but I know that could be carnage if you get him out.
Yeah,
So another
definitely.
time when
Yeah.
maybe, day 50 when he's a bit
Yes,
more
yeah,
trained.
when it's a bit more trained, but yeah. And then I think, the other thing is obviously just spreading the word about Nathan and just letting people know that he's there. So I mean, obviously he's helping me from the sort of care of the elderly side and sort of mobility with people. But he's a sports rehab, so any sports injuries he can obviously fix and sort out. And he's sort of developed his assessment skills. So he does the sort of football program for Chester Uni. So when they
Oh, right, brilliant.
so there's overseas, mostly Americans who come over, and he'll like assess some pre-training and game, and if there's any injuries, he'll obviously devise a program. And he works for me 3 days, but the other 2 days he's in a clinic in Liverpool where he's seeing a lot of musculoskeletal injuries, so he's keeping his skills up in that sense. But yeah, I'm hoping to develop his role more in that area. But yeah, the other thing is sports massage, so that it benefits everyone. He's doing sort of massage with one of our patients who's in her 80s, and then treating someone who's like in their 40s. So he's kind of covering everyone from that point of view. And I've always said throughout my career that you can't underestimate the power of like hands-on. It works undoubtedly. Just relieving that muscle tension just eases pain. So that's appropriate for anyone of any age.
So
Yeah.
anyone that's got Zoom back or Zoom shoulders
Yeah,
or
neck,
Zoom
all that.
butt or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the man to sort it. But
Right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I think particularly obviously we're all working at home and stuff. I mean, there is a whole host of problems that arise from that. But yeah, sort of neck problems, shoulder problems have become more prevalent as a result. So just getting that muscle tension eased, it'll stand anyone in good stead.
And where can people see Nathan then? Do you both sort of go to people's houses or
Yeah,
do you
yeah, yeah. We're both mobile. So Nathan has his own like plinth, so he'll just pitch up, set up, sort you out, and then disappears. So
Right, okay.
it's perfect. But yeah, hopefully in the future. I was saying that we plan to get him in instinct in Tarpley, but for various reasons it's kind of not worked as we expected. But I am going to sort of look around because there's obviously lots of other gyms in the area.
Sure.
Look around and see if we can forge a partnership in that sense. So I suppose that would be the other
That would
thing.
be helpful, wouldn't it then? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So if there's anyone sort of in the network who has any connections, sort of local to me, ideally, because it'd be nice to have him based this side. Because I do the thing in Tatton Hall. So the physio over there, she is also like a sports rehabber, and they've got their own masseuse. So if I could get Nathan based this side, it kind of opens up.
So this side being where, Joe?
Like Tarpley.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be specifically in Tarpley, but it would just be handy to be a bit
Yeah,
more like local.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right then. Well, thank you for your time this morning. That's been
Oh,
really,
thank you.
really insightful. And we will. I'm sure the members will do their best to keep you abreast of things to come. So thank you, Joe.
Oh, thank you, Tracy.